Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. Look, if you're an English as a foreign language educator, or honestly any teacher trying to bring their classroom into the modern age, you've probably felt that massive push to flip your classroom, right? It sounds absolutely brilliant in theory, but in practice, wow, it can be a total headache. So today we're tackling a highly practical, honestly fascinating workshop that solves this exact problem. We're going to explore how you can design genuinely engaging, flipped EFL web classrooms using a very specific, super effective AI workflow.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with the Flipped Classroom Challenge, cover some flipped classroom basics, and then get into the really good stuff, the AI transformation workflow using NotebookLM, Claude, and Lovable. Finally, we'll look at the 7-minute build and how AI actually empowers the educator.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the Flipped Classroom Challenge.
So we're basically facing three massive roadblocks in modern teaching right now. First up is teacher friction. You know the feeling, spending literal hours manually creating and formatting materials for just one single lesson. It is exhausting. Then there's student friction. Let's be real, compliance is low. Students just skip those passive, boring pre-class videos or static reading assignments, which totally derails any active application you had planned for class time. And finally, the AI trap. This one's huge. You try to save time using generic AI tools, but the outputs end up lacking any real pedagogical alignment. They just don't fit your lesson structures. The bottom line here is that flipped classrooms only actually work if you have high-quality, bespoke resources. And doing that the traditional way is just completely unsustainable.
Which brings us to Section 2, Flipped Classroom Basics.
A highly functional flipped classroom really boils down to a 3-step timeline. Before class, students need to interact with foundational material. During class, they actually apply that knowledge through active learning. And then after class, they review and consolidate. But here's the catch. If that before-class material is just some static, boring PDF that puts everyone to sleep, the whole chain literally breaks. You need dynamic, custom resources at every single stage to make this work. So the big question is, how on earth do we build all that without completely burning out?
That leads perfectly into Section 3, the AI transformation workflow. And this brilliantly illustrates the entire transformation from start to finish. You start with your raw lesson materials, those dense, traditional reading and listening exercises. But instead of manually breaking them down yourself, you run them through a 3-engine pipeline. First, NotebookLM steps in to organize the content and create visual support. Next, Claude takes all that beautifully organized data and turns it into pedagogical games. And finally, Lovable comes in to transform those activities into interactive web apps. The end result? A highly engaging learning experience living right there in a beautiful online environment. It's a completely seamless, straightforward path from a dusty old textbook directly into an interactive web classroom.
Let's zoom in on those specific tools in Section 4, NotebookLM, Claude, and Lovable.
Step 1 is NotebookLM, which basically acts as your master content organizer. I really want you to notice that magic metric right in the middle, 10 to 20 minutes of teacher design time. That's it. You just upload your traditional PDFs, and literally within minutes, NotebookLM helps generate incredibly engaging content. We're talking structured summaries, illustrations, videos, even podcasts. It takes what's already sitting on your desk and produces significantly better foundational material with barely any manual formatting required from you.
Okay, so once NotebookLM organizes everything, we move right along to Step 2, Claude. This is where the actual pedagogy happens. You feed that organized content into Claude, and it outputs all the interactive logic. And hey, we're not just talking about boring multiple choice questions here. Claude can actually generate the code and logic for interactive vocabulary games. Imagine a customized Pac-Man game built exactly around your lesson's vocabulary. It's wild. It's also absolutely brilliant for generating specific rubrics, complex assessments, and differentiated exercises tailored perfectly to your students' levels. And finally, we hit Step 3, Lovable. So you've got great content and fun games, but how do the kids actually play them? Well, Lovable is your final deployment stage. It grabs the code and concepts from Claude and turns them into live, interactive web apps. It takes all your leveled-up content and drops it into one cohesive, gorgeous online environment. And the best part? Everything you build here becomes a reusable teaching resource for all your future classes.
So the really crucial point here is this horizontal progression. You're taking a totally static, flat textbook page, letting Notebook LM structure it with cool visuals, having Claude inject interactive game logic, like that Pac-Man game, and then using Lovable to deploy the whole thing as a live, interactive web lesson straight to your students' devices. Just think about what a massive upgrade that is for the student's experience. It completely solves that whole student friction problem where they skip the boring pre-class work.
Now for the really fun part, Section 5, the 7-minute build.
This is almost always the absolute highlight of the workshop this explainer is based on. Once you actually get the hang of this workflow, the speed is staggering. A standard, raw textbook PDF can go through Notebook LM, get processed by Claude, and be fully deployed as a live web app by Lovable in just 5 to 7 minutes. Let that sink in for a second. 7 minutes to build a customized, highly engaging web environment for your students. That completely shatters the whole teacher friction issue of spending your weekends doing prep work.
Finally, let's bring it back to you. In Section 6, AI empowers the educator.
The biggest takeaway here is this: AI is the engine, but you are still the architect. Look at this massive shift. Before, it was mountains of paper and endless hours spent manually prepping and formatting. Now, your time is spent actively designing, teaching, and really connecting with your students. AI is absolutely not here to replace teachers, it's here to empower you. It empowers you to design superior, bespoke lessons and highly engaging experiences. Most importantly, it dramatically shifts your most precious resource, your time, away from manual, boring prep work and right back into active, human teaching.
I want to wrap up with this fantastic quote from Maya Angelou that I think perfectly captures this whole journey. Do your best until you know better, then do better. Look, you've been doing your absolute best with traditional, time-consuming prep methods, but now, seeing this workflow with Notebook LM, Claude, and Lovable, now you know better. You know there is literally a 7-minute path to engaging, customized web classrooms. So what barrier is stopping you from building an unforgettable lesson for your students tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll leave you to get out there and start building.